Hello everybody. Welcome back to our little tarot corner. Allie from Totaro here with another VR. So today I thought I would jump back into the Tarot to the Extreme tag by Marlena. She recently came out with a second installment to her original tag with 6 new prompts for ways to kind of compare and contrast your decks. Thinking in dualistic terms is how she described it. So, without further ado, let's just jump on in. I've got all the prompts here on my iPad, as one professional does. So let's go. So the first category is modern versus vintage. Now, I've got a couple decks here that I definitely feel fit the vibe for modern versus vintage. The first is the Tarot of the Sacred Sisterhood for my modern. And vintage, this is a deck you've seen before. This is my Tarot Piatnik Queen. So let's start by looking at the Sacred Sisterhood. So this is a deck by the lovely Holly at Datura Ambry. I'm horrible. Not even, I do apologize, but we all know that I can't pronounce things for crap. So I will link her shop below, though. I promise I will remember. But yeah, so this deck feels modern to me. These are the backs. They feel modern to me because this deck definitely explores things in a very modern sense. It embraces the time and place of today. And I love that the majors are all in French. I think that is a beautiful touch. The majors and the courts, rather, are in French. But you'll see as we go through the cards that there is a lot of body diversity, a lot of ethnic diversity, a lot of ability diversity, a lot of sexuality diversity. And so it's really great for that. It feels just very overall incredibly inclusive. And I think that that's a powerful message to send in any sort of modern deck. Let me see if I can find some of... First of all, I love this death card. Let me see if I can find some of the better cards to point that out, what I'm talking about here. Okay, well, so here we have the Magician, and it is an older figure. You can tell that they've got the lovely white hair. They've seen some things. I love that we see age in our Magician here. Our beautiful High Priestess. I just enjoy this deck so much. So much. I'm trying to find... Here we go. So this is a great example. So in the Nine of Wands, we see our figure has a prosthetic leg, but that is not stopping them. They are out living their life in the sunflowers, carrying on in the world. And I think that's a great message about perseverance, and it obviously is something that's very modern. Again, we see an older figure for the Queen of Swords, which I love. Kind of makes me think of her hair as being wind. Here we have a prime example of another version of ability. This is the Knight of Pentacles, and you can see that they're in a wheelchair. This figure in the Seven of Wands has had a mastectomy on the left side. I could go on and on about how great this deck is. And yeah. But that is my choice for my modern deck, the Tarot of the Sacred Sisterhood. I need to remember to link this bag, so I really will do my best. All right, and then the vintage deck that I compared with it was my Piatnik Queen. Won't spend too long on this one, but it is pretty cool. We've seen it recently in one of my other videos. These are the backs, kind of larger cards. This was made in 1974. I found it on eBay in great, perfect condition from someone who really didn't use them much, and so the condition was amazing. It is a Marseille style deck, which I'm very interested in this upcoming year to learn more Marseille and to try and work with Marseille. It is a system that I can't totally grip yet, but I'm very looking forward to learning about it. There was actually a deck that I just pre-ordered from Artisan Tarot. I was talking to Jess from Jess Reads Cards. She posted about the deck on her story, and it's a Marseille deck, and the cups have anatomic hearts, which I've said 1,000 times here, but as a nurse, you know that that's obviously right up my alley, and I love it. And the cards seem like they've been aged and distressed, and it just looks so cool. So that, I believe, will be my first modern quote-unquote Marseille. It's still based on a traditional Marseille deck, but just with the anatomical hearts, it kind of makes it, it just makes it cool. We were both like, oh, this sets our little nurse hearts aflutter. So I'm very excited to get that. But that is the Tarot Pyautnik Ween. The next category here is new moon versus full moon. So in all of these prompts, just like in the last video, Marlena kind of left it open to our interpretation, whatever that may mean for you. She kind of went with the nature of the new and full moons for her deck selections, and that's kind of what I've done too. So when thinking about the new moon or the dark moon, we think about, I'm just kind of going to paraphrase how Marlena explained it because I thought it was a great explanation. The new moon or the dark moon is all about kind of digging within, about introspection and working towards our goals, kind of, you know, setting our sights on what it is that we want to achieve, and it's doing the dirty work to get there, right? And then we have the full moon, which is a much more highly energetic time, and that's kind of the closing of a cycle, the completion of all that work that we've done. So for my new moon or dark moon, I have a deck we've seen before. This is my Witch's Tarot in my Moonlit Fae bag. And for my full moon, I decided to bring out my little pocket edition of the Rainbow Heart Tarot by Rachel Rosenketter. Now, I will have to double check because right now I'm not remembering the artist's name or the creator's name of the Witch's Tarot, but I know that I will find it here. These are the backs. I won't spend too long on this one because you've also seen it here on my channel recently. Burning Paper Hearts, that's right. That's who the creator is for this deck. This deck screams introspection. This deck screams inner work and shadow and all those good things. This deck is a masterpiece in and of itself, and you definitely want to give her time to tell you her message. You know, it's not necessarily a quick reader. She is a very effective communicator, but I like to kind of languish and savor her readings. I go slow with these. I'll leave readings that I do with this deck out for, you know, a couple days, and just really sit with it and come back and ponder. It's very, very introspective and very, very much about the inner wild woman, as I've talked about in my flip through of this deck. So if you want to see a whole flip through of this deck, I have it up on my channel in one of my older videos. Love the delicious rose petal feel of this deck and the matte black gilding. It's just stunning. So that is the new moon deck, or the full moon deck, or the new moon or dark moon deck, and that is the Witch's Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts. And once you go through all that work, once you kind of, you know, sit with the new moon and do the inner reflective work, I personally like to take a break. I like to see color. I like to see fun. I like to see shiny and new. I just like to take a breath, right? So this is the new pocket edition of the Rainbow Heart Tarot, again by Rachel Rosenketter. My very first YouTube video, or maybe it was my second one, was actually an interview with this creator about the deck. And they recently came out with this pocket edition, which is just delicious and wonderful. I mean, starting with this very, very highly rainbow edging. I mean, come on. So I still do have my full size. The backs are just like the larger edition. I believe too that there is an edition that has silver gilding, or yeah, I can't remember. I didn't look too closely into the newer edition of the full size just because I still love my first edition so much. But when this little one came out, I was like, oh, I need to have that. So, yeah. Obviously you can see why I feel like it would just be a lovely, refreshing, fun deck to work with after going through the dark and the doom and the gloom, right? Getting into this time of year, you know, November, December, January, even kind of into February, our winters can kind of linger here. That's very much what I like to do. You know, we're not going outside. Even today, it's like in the 30s, so count me out. But it's wonderful time to be introspective and to go slow with readings and to enjoy that darker, deeper imagery and really slow down and do that work. But then, you know, comes the time when it's time to just burst forth, right? So that is what I feel like this deck does for me personally. And that is my pocket edition of the Rainbow Heart Tarot. That is my full moon deck. The next prompt, let's see here, is, gosh, my iPad keeps locking. I am a professional YouTuber, don't worry about it. The third prompt is cute versus creepy. And boy, howdy, do I have a pair. So for the cute deck, we have a deck that we've seen before. This is the, oh no, Playful Heart Tarot by Zara at Kitten Shops. And I love this deck. It's obviously in a custom Moonlit Fae bag. I actually rehomed an earlier copy that I had of this and rebought it because I missed it. I've really got to stop doing that. That's one big thing that I've learned over this year is I really need to kind of slow down my purgatory process, but there's always new decks coming into my collection and I just get overwhelmed and I kind of want to get rid of it. And then, yeah, relatable, I know. And then my creepy deck is the Magicians, Martyrs, and Madmen Tarot. This is a new deck that came out this year by Travis McHenry. This was a Kickstarter. Yeah, I've got some stuff to say about this one. So let's start with the fun deck, the cute deck. I am one of those people, I keep my little seal intact. Come for me, I don't care. Now, my new version, the only one that was available actually at the time when I wanted to repurchase, was a custom edged copy. Zara herself did this and she was selling them in her shop. There were only a couple that she had in the shop at the time, and so I jumped on it, but it's got all sorts of fun colors on the gilding, which I love. It's on delicious linen cardstock. Yeah, of course it's upside down, but this is a great cute deck. None of the decks that I have shy completely away from the difficult cards, and I don't want them to. Any deck, as I've said before, can be used for deep work or for fun work. So all of the decks that I own really can do that well. Like here we have the Moon card. Some people might think that this skulls and little ghosty spirits and these reaching hands are creepy. I don't. So, I don't know. It's to each their own, right? With everything. But to me, this obviously is a very cute deck. And Zara herself is the cutest conversationalist. She's so full of kindness and warmth and energy, and I've seen other creepy cards. Some people might think this is creepy and that might turn them off of this deck as a whole. Not I, said the cat. Not I. Look at this Queen of Wands. I mean, come on. Anyway, Zara herself is just wonderful and full of light and uses a ton of happy emojis in conversing with her, and so she's just a joy, and her deck is, in my opinion, just an extension of that. So that is my cute deck, the Playful Heart Tarot by Kitten Shops. Now the creepy deck. So I filmed this video earlier and half of it was out of shot, so I will try and cut down on my rambling. This deck, I will go ahead and give a specific trigger warning about. It does feature, you know, cards that have some gore, depictions of kind of intense death, you know, serial killers and that sort of thing. So if that is not your cup of tea, you may just skip forward a little bit. But as I said, this was a Kickstarter. Comes in a little 2-piece box with a little black and white, little white book. Not totally black and white. The card images are in color, but little black and white book. And I don't know that I'll be keeping this one. So these are the backs. And the whole premise of the deck is obviously to explore magicians, martyrs, and madmen. So you have historical figures or places or things of that nature that the creator has tied to the cards of the tarot. Some of them make sense. I can totally wrap my head around it. Others, I just struggle. And so I don't know if I'll be keeping it. There is also a bigger guidebook that you can purchase with this, which I did. And yeah, so the artwork on this is beautiful. And the artwork is done by Helen Gottberg. And from what I understand, Travis McHenry, the creator, kind of gave the artist an idea of how he wanted the cards to look, and she created them. So like this actual picture may not exist anywhere. It is just Travis's vision in his mind of what he wanted for the card. So like for instance, the 7 of Wands here is Charles Luanga. And I do not know who that is or why they would be the 7 of Wands, but that is the purpose of the little guidebook. Some kind of make sense, but don't. Again, here's a perfect example. So this, I've read about her. This is for anyone who speaks French. I'm sorry, my pronunciation will probably be way off, but this is La Voici, and she is portrayed as the Queen of Cups. If you'll notice, her little goblet has a little skull in it. And from what I understand, she basically made a lot of money by poisoning people and getting rid of them. So she was kind of a hitman via poison. And so that kind of works. But then, like, the Queen of Cups is supposed to be kind and loving and all that stuff. Again, here's another example, the 7 of Cups being Harry Houdini. I can totally wrap my mind around that. I mean, he was the master of illusion, right? So of course, okay, that works. But there are just cards that I don't understand. I read about this one. This is Tsar Nicholas II as the 4 of Wands. Essentially, from what I remember about him, he was a Russian Tsar, and basically under him, the country went into decline, and in essence, they were all taken out, but he was always very protective of his children and of his family. He always did right by them. And so, okay, you know what I mean? It just doesn't completely land for me. And then there are other cards in here that kind of do the same thing, like Death being Jack the Ripper. Perfect. I get it. No explanation needed, you know, but I'm familiar with that person. I know that Marie Laveau, not Marie, yes. Hold on, let me find her. Okay, so the Tower being H.H. Holmes' murder castle. Again, totally works. I get it. Queen of Swords being Lizzie Borden. I get it. So, yeah, just a dark deck, and I do not know if I will keep it. Which is kind of upsetting because I was very intrigued by the idea on the Kickstarter, and I don't know. So that's creepy. the next prompt is on my table versus in my bag. So the on my table one was very easy because I do have a deck that essentially never leaves my desk area here, and that is my Blood Moon Tarot. My in my bag deck always changes. If you follow me on Instagram, you kind of see those changes when I do my little pulls in my car. Recently, I'd been using the Halloween tarot in a tin. Typically, that's what I grab is my tin deck, so my gentle tarot in a tin, all that kind of stuff. But I've most recently switched to my Tiny Traveler Sesarabito. So let's start with the Blood Moon Tarot. Shown this one before. I don't know if it's still in print. This is the deluxe edition, I guess, that's in the magnetic closure box. There was an edition that was put out in a tuck box. I don't know if this deck is still in print or not. I don't know about the printing plans, so I apologize in advance if this is not available. These are the backs. It is gold gilded. This deck is never far from me. Sorry, I keep struggling to know if I'm in frame. Yeah, this deck is never far from me. I always like to keep it close by. It just transports you to a whole other world, and it's just incredibly gorgeous. Something about it just really captivates my attention, and I recently got the large art book that comes with it, and that is a work of art itself. It's got like a beautiful linen cover, and it could serve as a coffee table book, in my opinion, and it kind of goes into the artist's process of creating the cards and like the color palettes she used and things like that. So this deck is never far away from me. As a matter of fact, let me grab that book real fast so I can show you guys what I mean. But yeah, this deck never goes away from my table. Grab the book. Hold on. It's right here. Okay. So this little baby, quite big. As you can see, maybe I'll zoom out a little. There we go. It is a work of art. Truly a work of art. It's so cool. So it goes through the deck. So it is the guidebook here. There's a PDF that comes with it, but this is the guidebook in big book form. But then Coda Bear. But then after the deck, it kind of goes into creation of the deck. So like the artist's sketchbook, and it's amazing to get to see how this, like, I mean, look at this. This is like the artist's notes when they were making the deck. So incredible to own this. And then here, like I was talking about, you get into the palettes that the artist chose and the colors and how they were thinking about how to lay those out. And it's so cool. So cool. If you are artistically inclined or you just looking at pretty things, this book is well worth it, in my opinion. Again, gold embossed on linen. It's just incredible. So all that to say, there's my table deck. Now, for my in my bag deck, again, right now I have the Tiny Traveler Sesarabito Tarot. So it's my little guy. It's on a linen cardstock too. And this one's just perfect. It's an all-around great reader. The Sesarabito Tarot in itself is just a fantastic reader. It's very intelligent, I think, and it just never ceases to give me great readings. Sometimes I just look at the deck and I'm like, oh, okay, well, you didn't have to hurt my feelings like that, but all right. So, just great. I still have my full size as well, but this one is great for just throwing in my bag. So right now, this is what goes to work with me and everywhere else with me. That is my Tiny Traveler Cesarabito as my in my bag tarot. Also currently in its matching Moonlit Fae bag. Next prompt. We're not doing too bad on time. Okay, go us. All right, next tag is realistic versus fanciful. So, for my realistic deck, I chose the Experiential Tarot. This is a deck that we've seen before, and I love it. It's a deck by Julie Comfort. I don't believe it is in print anymore. I do have a full walkthrough of the deck on my channel in my earlier videos. If you are interested, you can go back and look at that. I was even more so of a baby YouTuber than I am now, so it's not the best, but it is a fun walkthrough. And then for my fantastical deck, or a fanciful deck rather, I chose my Fantastic Menagerie Tarot by Baba Studios, also in a Moonlit Fae bag. So, again, since I have a full walkthrough, won't go too much into detail, but the Experiential Tarot is so incredible. I have nothing but love for this deck. I'm infatuated with the color palette, and I chose this as my realistic deck because it's a photo deck, and so it depicts real people and places and plants, and I just think it's very gripping and raw. This deck is both great and not great for beginners in that it is not typical Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, so it's not a clone. It does its own thing, but it's a good learner deck in that she's got the titles of the cards on one side and then keywords on the other, so there are keywords to learn for beginners. And this is one of my absolute favorite cards in the deck. This is the Strength card, and it shows like an open stomach surgical scar here, and you can see right here where they had a little drain coming out of their belly. I see this all the time. So this is very much a deck that resonates with me personally, and yeah, I just love it. So great. So that's my realism deck, the Experiential Tarot by Julie Comfort. I really hope that this, maybe she considers putting it mass market or something. I just love it. I bought a copy for a friend of mine because I wanted her to have it. And yeah, it's just wonderful. So if the fanciful deck, I chose my Fantastic Menagerie Tarot, again in a Moonlit Fae bag. Stop, I know. This deck I think is just fun. I chose it as my fanciful deck because it's otherworldly with the anthropomorphic animals. It's got the gold stamping or the cold stamping typical to Baba Studios. You can kind of see it there. This is a great deck for warmer weather like spring and summer. I love using it for that. This deck is very snarky and sarcastic. It has a dark sense of humor, but I enjoy it a lot. It's just pretty to look at, and it's fun to use. Unfortunately, this is another one of Baba's decks that are out of print. I don't know, some of their decks they have circled back around and reprinted. The Victorian Romantic is one that they just came out with a couple months ago, and then I know they're reprinting their Bohemian Gothic. I know they're also working on a Bohemian Cats Tarot, which is a revamping of their Baroque Bohemian Cats Tarot. So I don't know what all their plans are to reprint or if they will, but you can typically find copies of this one on eBay or maybe in some tarot trade groups on Facebook. So that is my fanciful deck, the Fantastic Menagerie Tarot. Our final category is quiet versus loud. So this is a deck I'm not sure if I've shown yet. but this is my quiet deck. This is the Living Tarot. I do not remember who this is by, so I will leave the link down below. I know that I purchased it on Etsy, but this is just a treat in and of itself. And then my Loud deck, again, Marlena said you can kind of use this prompt for whatever this means to you, but my Loud deck I chose as my Tarot Avatara by Gabby Angus West. Now, the thing about the Living Tarot and why I feel like it's my quiet deck, first of all, it is all sustainably made. So everything from the bag to the ink to the cardstock, it's all sustainably printed and made. I think the ink is even vegetable ink. So it just is very harmonious with the earth and the environment. And so I love that. So it's also got kind of a quiet impact. It might sound kind of cheesy. But yeah, so these are the backs. Now this deck is a little bit bigger. It's more oracle size. So I don't mind it though. It's not too bad, but these are the backs. It is grayscale, black and white. The artwork in this deck is just beautiful. So the artist created this deck, and she has in the guidebook we'll look at here in just a second. But she's got specific plants on cards for reasons. So this is another deck. The Herb Crafter's Tarot is a major one that I see a lot of people talking about, but I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody else except Panda Bennett show this deck on YouTube. I don't think it gets nearly enough recognition or credit. But anyway, yeah, the creator artist chose plants specific for each card as well as animals. And I just think it is brilliantly made. And it just seems quiet and gentle and lovely and precious. And I love it. So let's take a look at the Three of Swords here in the guidebook so you can see what I mean and why this deck is so incredible. Okay. Also, the book itself is like the artist's handwriting. It's like she wrote her notes down on the deck for you. It's awesome looking. Okay, so the Three of Swords, we have heartbreak, loneliness, feeling lost and rejection. A sword through a beat to represent heartache and feeling let down. Okay, well, that's not necessarily the best example, but you understand what I mean. Let's look at this Mother of Pentacles here. Let's do that instead. Because I want you to understand. I want you to see what I mean. Okay. Mother of Pentacles. So we have nurturing, trustworthy, loyal, generous, and down to earth. And we have taro, which represents resourcefulness and trust. So that right there is the taro plant. So it's just really cool. Anyway, again, I will link this deck and creator down below. I love working with it. I don't think I've showed it again on here. It's a little card that came with it, but I do really love it. It's just so cool. So that is my little sweet quiet deck, and that's the Living Tarot. Now my Loud deck is definitely one that I've showed before. My Tarot Avatara by Gabby Angus West. This deck is Frida Kahlo based, for those of you who don't know it or are not familiar with it. And not only is it loud in color scheme, but gold gilding. Lost my train of thought. So this deck tells the story of Frida Kahlo's life. The guidebook itself is written like her diary. So the guidebook entries are written as if she wrote them in her journal. And so it tells of the tragedy of her life, and it also tells of her triumph. It both is the sound of her wailing and crying from being broken, and the sound of her screaming and shouting and taking up her place and finding her voice. And I just think it's incredibly powerful. Not only that, but it's physically loud, I feel like, in the busyness of the artwork, which is typical of Gabby Angus West's decks. This one is kind of a merge of Rider-Waite Smith and Thoth. So some of the keywords in the guidebook are the Thoth keywords. So it's kind of one of those hybrid decks, but I find this a very empowering deck and a very powerful deck. If you don't know Frida Kahlo's life story, it's wild, man. She was a fascinating individual, and her life was just so, oh yeah. I can't even explain it, but this deck just does something to me, and I'm so glad to have it. But this is definitely Frida Kahlo's screaming to me. So it's very loud and very, very present and in your face, and I love it. And that is my Tarot Avatara by Gabby Angus West. So that about does it. That is all the decks that I have to show you all for this tag. I want to thank you, Marlena, for coming up with this tag, a second part to it rather, and having us kind of explore more decks. I had a lot of fun making it, so I hope you guys enjoyed. And thank you for spending time with me today looking at all these decks. I hope you are happy and safe and healthy out there. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.